And that's good. We're on. So I'm going to ask. I see Patience is here. Patience, give us a welcome this morning. So I'm going to ask everyone to go ahead and mute your mics at this moment. And I'm going to ask Patience to give us a welcome. I don't see Fortunate, but one of you give us a welcome today.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Welcome to our consultants, Barbara and Kate, and to everyone, welcome. We are so excited to continue with our journey to ensure that continual improvement happens at our facilities. And let's all chip in and ensure we are participating so that we can also learn from our peers. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take a moment here and stop and ask everyone to just double check that your mute is on.
Correct.
And we ask everyone to double check that your mute is on. All right. So I have a poll for you this morning. It's a very important polling question. Here you go. It's our icebreaker today. Very important question. Oh my. The results are pouring in. 14 of 33 of you have voted. I'm going to ask everyone to please mute your mics. All right, we've got 65% of the vote in. We're going to end our poll. And here are the results. 33% of you prefer coffee, and the winner, 46% of you prefer tea. Now, 21% of you said neither. So you have to type into the chat box what you like to drink in the mornings. Okay, very good. All right, I've got one more thing for you this morning. You've got 25 seconds, and I'm going to be timing. I want you to find something yellow. I want you to turn on your camera and show it to us in 25 seconds, and the timing starts now. You've got 25 seconds. You're finding something yellow, and you're going to turn on your camera and show us what that is. All right, you've got 14 seconds left. Seven seconds, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so here we go. Turn on your cameras and show us something yellow. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see a big screen of everyone showing me something yellow. Someone's got a lot of yellow in the background. Who's that? Zadwa. Zadwa has a lot of yellow in the background, like a lot. Someone has a bowl. Someone has juice. Tawanda has a piece of paper. Oh,
I like Jackie's banana peels.
That's awesome. Someone else got a piece of paper. Someone's a tea bag. Oh, this is great. Now turn on your, everybody's got to turn on your cameras. Mine is a bag that did have almonds in it. All right, someone's got a lot, yellow paper, tea bag, juice, more bananas.
Did you see Jackie's?
It's a gone banana. You can turn on your camera even if you don't have something yellow, but I'm getting ready to capture a picture. So I'd love to see a lot of, oh, juice, I see that. Oh, more juice. Awesome. Otella, I see your smiling face. Shalette, got yellow paper. I think actually the winner is Zadwa. She's got so much yellow back there. But the bananas are good. All right, so we're getting ready to take a picture. Smiling faces, ready, set, go. All right, very nice. Very nice.
Gertrude, is that a mango? That looks like a perfect mango to me.
Ah,
It's an orange.
Oh, it's an orange. Okay.
其实我做的是这个，
all right. Well, thanks you all for joining in with me this morning. Our goal is to make the quality improvement time the best part of your work week. And I hope you try to do that with the teams that you're working with. All right. I want to say thank you for your feedback. These are 29 people responded to our end of webinar survey last week. And you all said that there was high agreement and secondly, strongly agree with all the questions that we asked. So really appreciate that. And we got lots of very rich comments. So thank you all. We do read all those comments and we pay attention and we want to learn more. Thank you for that. We also want to shout out to the Flora and the Musiso group. We want to give them, can you all give them a round of applause for last week? Do you have an opportunity to give some applause? Yeah, Katie's giving a clapping hand. I can't do it since I'm recording. But you can turn on your camera. You can give a shout out. We really want to thank, I don't know if Flora's here today, but we want to thank her and her team for, we got great feedback from you all that you really appreciated the case study. So thank you. All right, well, for today, we had a welcome by patients. We've looked at our icebreaker and let's take a quick overview of our pager. So today we'll have a look at our scorecard. Hopefully we'll be able, I don't see Japheth yet, but hopefully we'll be able to get an update on the baseline data. Japheth, if you're here, open your mic and say hello. Does anyone see Japheth here yet?
No, he's not yet. Not yet here.
Okay, well, hopefully he will be here to share some baseline data, and then we are going to do case studies. We have 4 case studies. I don't know if we'll get to all of them today, but that's we'll spend a lot of time there, and then we're going to look ahead for what is coming up for the next couple of weeks. If the faculty can stay by, I will not be able to stay by this morning, but if they can, patients will and Katie will facilitate a brief debrief. So we're always beginning with the end in mind. What are we aiming for in the next week? And really, we're coming up on the end. We have 3 more webinars till the end. So we are looking for measurable results, changes. In our clinics, we are aiming for the increased proportion of eligible patients who have viral load samples received by the lab. For our district labs, we're looking at meeting the targeted pre-analytic time. And for our testing labs, we're looking at the proportion of patients who meet the targeted turnaround times. So we're always thinking about how we can reach those goals. Those are our specific goals that we've set for ourselves. Remember our toll gates. So we had many toll gates here early on in the define phase. We've had most recently, our toll gates have been in the define, measure, and analyze phase. The last time we talked about voice of customer, learning board, run chart, and fishbone. And most recently, we've started doing test of change, 5S, and just do it. So always keeping in mind having those toll gates and passing each one before we can move to the next one. And here's just a reminder of what we're working on. We will still continue to work on the improved videos since they did not get up as soon as I had hoped. And we will continue to move ahead to more test of change. Test of change are iterative, and we definitely want to be able to do more test of change. And as I said, we've got 11 May and 18 May. We've got two close together there because we want to be able to get more groups presenting. And then we will be ending really in just a month away. So as you're thinking ahead, think about that PDSAs are not one and done. So the presentations that came to me, I saw everyone had started one PDSA, but think about how you can move that to the next PDSA. So we'll talk about that more in the end, but that is what we are looking ahead to the next time. And how are you going to know the LARC videos? And we now have 7 up of the improved videos. Again, I am completely owning the fact that they did not get up as early as I had hoped. It is a very big task to make these. And so I appreciate your patience, and we will assign them again for your next session. But I do hope you can scroll over there and catch these videos. That you find it on the larkcqi.org website under e-learning, or I think Patients and Fortune have graciously downloaded them for you. So next webinar we're planning ahead is the week of is 11 May. And so the deliverables, not April 21, the deliverables, if you can get your deliverables to your faculty by the 5th of May, the faculty can review by the 6th of May, the faculty can send them to the PMT by the 7th of May, and on the 10th of May, we will receive those and get ready for the webinar. I know some of you mentioned in your feedback that you felt like you only have a week, but the assignments are actually out there, so you will know what is coming up and be ready to work on those assignments. So the assignment is very clear. We are going to do more PDSAs, and we're going to actually test the changes, report the results, learn from those cycles. PDSAs are about learning. And then we're going to either, if we abandon that, we start a different test of change. If the test of change is working, but it needs some adaptation or tweaking, we'll do that as well. But we are continuing to test changes. So at this time, Patience, do you have the scorecard to share with us today?
Yes, Fortunate is going to go ahead and share.
Oh, okay. Fortunate's here. Great. Fortunate, welcome. I need to.
Hi, Barbara. How are you?
Oh, wow.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm going to share the scorecard. Just apologies from the OFID team. They are attending a crucial workshop in their district, so they can't join in, but we have a representative representing them, Judith. I think she's on the line. So she'll be representing OFID team. So just to go on to our scorecards. Okay, that's our scorecard for today. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll start with the IHI courses faculty. For the IHI courses for faculty, there hasn't been much change except for CLSI. When I presented last week, only 3 had done the IHI courses, but I'm glad to say they've now all completed. All the 8 faculty members from CLSI have completed their IHI courses. We still have 3 people outstanding from faculty for Zimtech who are yet to complete. One from DRTI. And then all the other faculty members, I'm happy to say they've completed, and OFID we also have 1 who is outstanding. Then looking at IHI,
We ought to give a shout out. That's looking much better.
okay, you said something, Barbara? I didn't get what you said.
I just said we ought to give a shout out. That is really looking almost perfect there. So thank you to you all. And I hope they're very beneficial for you.
Okay. And then looking at IHI completion for the coaches, there are still a lot of gaps there, especially when you look at the Ministry of Health coaches. These are mostly lab-based coaches from our hubs. We only have 25 out of 38 who have completed their IHI courses. So I would urge ministry coaches to please continue with the IHI courses. And then for Zimtech, we still have 4 who have not completed their IHI courses. OFID, we still have an outstanding of 3 coaches, and we have 1 from ZACH. And ZHI, we have 3 and 2 from HI 360. So generally, I would want to say I think there's been a very good uptake of the IHI courses, although we can still improve and actually be at 100%. Then looking at the webinar attendance by coaches, looking at the last webinar, which was held on the 13th of April, you will note that attendance is still not very good considering the number of coaches coming from that particular organization. There is still a lot of apologies coming from coaches just before the webinars, and I think this is just becoming routine. So you find that for the last webinar, out of 38 Ministry of Health coaches, only 21 attended. And Zimtech, I think the last webinar also had poor attendance because we had half of the coaches attending the webinar. And then OFID, there was very good attendance. Only 7 did not attend the webinar. And also there was good attendance from ZACH. Only about 5 people did not manage to attend the webinar. And then ZHI, we also had half the coaches from ZHI attending the webinar. That is 6 out of 13. And FHI 360, there was only 1 who did not manage to attend the webinar of the 18th. And then the most important slide now on the—
Can I ask a quick question about the webinars?
Yes.
So if people aren't able to attend, and we understand there could be an opportunity that occasionally people wouldn't be able to attend, what should they do if they're not able to attend?
What we've done, we've come up with the we've come up with we have a quiz which we're uploading for them to take if they have not attended the webinar. So for the last webinar of the 13th, we had that quiz. And unfortunately, I did not include it, but we had 19 people attempting the quiz. This is just offhand. So I think people are actually doing something. So I'm happy for that.
Thank you, Fortunate. And I'm sorry, you had one more slide to share.
Okay, I don't know what has happened. Let me just try to share again. I don't know what has happened to my scorecard. It just closed on its own. Let me just share again. Yes, I had the last one. Okay. Can you see my screen now? Can you see my screen?
We are seeing a screen, but it looks like your opening screen. We're not seeing the PowerPoint.
Okay. Because I can see my screen here. It's like it's showing me that I'm already sharing, but let me try and see what's happening.
I think we're seeing like a picture of some rocks and sky.
Okay, no, I'm not seeing that here. I'm actually seeing the presentation itself, but let me just try. Let me stop sharing and start sharing again.
Are
Are you able to see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, on this slide for pre-work submission, which I was saying I think is the most important slide, the submission rate. When you're looking at this submission, we're looking at complete deliverables, because we are having some submissions which are just a fraction of the deliverables, not the whole. Like if you look at the last one, if you're looking at the test for change, you can have someone just sending in the presentation with just the 5S only, and the picture, the 5Ys only, the Ys, and then the 5S, the audit score, the test for change is not there. So that has not been incorporated here. So you find that most of the submissions that were sent in were incomplete. Hence, I did not include them on the scorecard. I only included the submissions which were complete. So you look at, when you look at Ministry of Health, the complete submissions that were sent were only 2 out of the 38. And also Zimtech had the same problem. Only 5 people or 5 coaches managed to submit complete deliverables that were due for on the 23rd. So we have since sent back most of the PowerPoint presentations because they were incomplete, and they are still coming in. So most have not completed the areas that were left blank, which were supposed to have been completed. And some you'll find that even the fishbone was not completed. Hence, it becomes difficult for someone to move on now and also complete the worksheets on test for change and also on the 5Ys. So I'm sure people will be asking why we have, and then from OFID we have 6 out of 30. So I'm explaining this because I know some people were calling and saying, I submitted, but my name has not been ticked, because before this, we also sent to faculty just to confirm those that is had submitted, and faculty did talk to their coaches. Hence the reason why coaches were calling me to say I submitted, but my name has not been ticked as submitted for test of change. It's because it was incomplete. I'm sure this has also been communicated through your faculty. So really the slide on deliverables, we are still very low on submission of deliverables. Most of the time, these are incomplete. I don't know, maybe this is something we can talk about, because we do send out the deliverables for the coming week and which slides you are supposed to be completing, but people still leave gaps. So it becomes difficult when also doing the scorecard to tally it as having been submitted if it's incomplete. So I think this is all. Thank you very much. Unless if there are any questions. Back to you, Barbara.
Anybody have questions for Fortunate? So we really appreciate, it takes a lot of work to be tracking this, and we appreciate that. And so we will ask everyone to keep muted. So thank you, Fortunate, for tracking that and helping us follow that. I, again, take full ownership of not having those LARC videos out and done. But I think the videos on PDSA are now available and have come out over the weekend. So I would encourage everyone to view those and be able to turn in those PDSAs. As Fortunate mentioned, and as we talked about, there are really definitely toll gates that you need to pass. And if you haven't done your fishbone, then you'll not be able to select a change. So, all right, we've got the LARC scorecard. How about baseline data? Is Japheth available yet?
Hi, Barbara.
Hi,
Hi, everyone.
let me make you go.
Yeah, so I'll ask patients to
Patience is
share the screen from that end because I'm having some connectivity.
okay, great, thank you. Japheth, I'll turn the time over to you.
Thank you, Barbara. So Percy, can you put it on slide mode? Okay, thank you so much. So what time is it? Okay, morning to you all. Thank you for joining the call. So I'll walk you through the baseline performance. Basically, we'll be looking at the submission rates as well as the baseline performance for the sites labs that have submitted their data. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so in terms of reporting rates for facilities, we have analyzed by province districts. So if you look at North, in terms of baseline submission for their facilities, here we are looking at the clinics. So we analyze the data for the clinics, hubs, and testing labs separately. So for the South team, they reported or they submitted data for all their participating sites, so 12 out of 12. Then in terms of Manicaland, I think we have some challenges in Manicaland. Only 30% of the facilities are submitted in Manicaland. Blawayo, 100% submission rate. Masvingo, 83%. So for Masvingo, we have 2 sites that have not submitted. One of our coaches, from the 2 coaches that did not submit, is not feeling well. So the AJA coach is now covering the work for the AJA coach. So that we had agreed that she will then submit the data for the outstanding 2 sites by Friday. So she's in the process of, collating data for those 2 sites. So that's the update for Masvingo. Again, the same challenges that we are having in Manicaland. We are also having similar challenges in Midlands. So Manicaland, it's ZHI supported province, then Midlands, FHI supported province. So we still have some challenges in terms of baseline data submission. For Harare, all the coaches, they've submitted their data. Matno, 67%. But if you look at some of the sites that have not reported 100%, it's not that they have not submitted, but we are still in the process of cleaning their data. So they're still back and forth to ensure that, we have quality data in terms of our baseline. So that's the submission rates for Marsh West, 78, Marsh East, 67, and 75 for Marsh Central. So at a national picture, we have about 72% of our sites that have submitted data. So if you look at the data that we'll be presenting, it's a presentation of the 72 sites that have submitted. So the sites that still have challenges in terms of data quality or the interpretation of the metric, the ones that we are still working with, we have not included their data in this analysis. Next slide, Peshi. So now we are moving on to the baseline reporting rates for the hubs. So the same challenge that we are facing with the other deliverables with the hubs, that's the same challenges that we have also faced in terms of reporting rates. Only 4 hubs out of the 35 reported, baseline data. And again, we are working with the district teams or the district lab on this one with Peshi and Matron Marketo, and we also had a discussion with Nora in terms of trying to, assist the facilities. But again, I must also mention that there are some sites that have submitted, but there were data quality issues that we were also working with the coaches. But the ones that we have managed to analyze, cleaned and analyze, we only have 4 sites. So we'll support the labs, the hubs in the coming weeks to ensure that all the challenges that they are facing are addressed. So we have come up with a plan to address and to assist the hubs in terms of baseline data and also issues to do with their attendance and all the other deliverables that they are still lagging behind. Then moving forward to the testing hub, we have, so for each province, we have 1 testing hub, although in March North, we also included, apart from Vic Falls, we also included St. Luke's as, because they've shared data, because they also act as a testing lab. They also analyze or test samples. So that's why we have 2 for March North, but for all the other provinces, we have 1 testing lab per province, and only 3, Manicaland, Masvingo, and Vic Falls and St. Luke's, have submitted, but the other testing labs, we are still working with them to ensure that they also report and also, it's in line with the metric that we are focusing on. So the only ones that we have accepted their data and cleaned only have 4 out of 9.
So you are fair, do not refer a 15-year-old
Okay, so now we are moving on to baseline performance for the facility. You can move on to the next slide, Peshe. So I will start with the national picture, just to have an appreciation in terms of, for 2020 as a country, how did we perform in terms of the overall viral load coverage? So if you look at for 2020, our overall viral load coverage was around 61% as of December 2020. Now moving on to our participating facilities that are participating in the this initiative. Next slide, patient. We also want to compare our baseline performance vis-a-vis what we also captured from the baseline performance. So looking at our baseline performance from the 72% of the facilities that submitted data and we managed to clean the data, our median performance was around 61%, which is almost the same with the national picture in terms of baseline performance in terms of viral load coverage. Although our indicator, we are only tracking from sample collection up until the samples reach the testing lab. But even if you look at the performance week on week, it's closer to the median performance. We don't have those fluctuations week on week, except for week, I think 4 and week 6, where they were slightly further away from the median performance. But basically, our performance is around the median performance, which is 61 performance. And again, I should mention this, it's only for the 72% of the facilities that have submitted data, which is 71 out of the 100 participating facilities. Now moving on to the baseline performance for the hubs. Again, let's remember that we only have 4 hubs that have submitted data and we've managed to clean the data. So from the hub, we can see those are fluctuations in terms of the performance. If you look at week 8, we have a lot of fluctuations, 47%, week 8, 63%. Also you have week 6 with around 8%. But I'm sure when we have data for more sites, it is more likely to be, closer to the median performance, which is around 27%. Unfortunately for this one, we only have 4 sites. But again, like what I have alluded, that we will support the facility in the coming week to ensure that we complete the exercise. We also had a meeting with Katie and Barbara where we got some positive feedback in terms of how best we can work with this facility. So I think come next week, we are more likely to have a different picture in terms of baseline performance. Now moving on to the last slide, which is looking at the TAT. Maybe let me mention that for the TAT, we extracted data from limbs. So maybe I should mention this to our coaches that are manning the testing lab, that we also felt that it was going to be good if we could also have a picture in terms of data that has been extracted from the transmitter sheets, so that at least we compare the turnaround time from data from the sample transmitter sheet and the ones that is coming from the limbs. From the limbs, the way we looking at the post-analytic, we're saying that the same time that the samples took from collection to the lab, it should be the same time that the samples will also take going back to the facility. But we also have the sample transmitter, which have you know, maybe which gives us a correct picture in terms of the performance. So it will be good to have that comparison. So we'll be working with you guys to ensure that we have that two data sets. We analyze them again for the baseline performance, so that we also have a picture in terms of the performance using the sample transmitter sheets and using LIMS, and also to also have a picture in terms of the proportion of size that will have retained the sample transmitter, so that even if you are making decisions based on that data, we also want to know, you know, in terms of the size that are sending samples to that lab, how many had a complete sample transmit, so that we make decisions based on data, and we also have a representative which is big enough to make those informed decisions. So we'll be working with the coaches from the testing lab to ensure that we have that comparison. So I think in the next meeting, if we have managed to complete the exercise, we'll be presenting data based on LIMS and also based on the sample transmitter, so that we also have a clear picture, and again, we'll assist the remaining labs in terms of ensuring that they finish the process of collecting and reporting baseline performance. So I think that's all I have. I think there's a comment from Barbara.
I just wanted to ask everyone if they caught one of your comments. What did Javed say he used to make decisions? He makes decisions based on what? This is a test. Were you listening to Javed? You heard him clearly, Gilbert, but what did he say? What does he use to make decisions? Looking for one word.
Don't let me down, guys.
Blessing says performance. Performance. That's getting close. You're getting warm. He said it a couple of times. So here's a hint. What did Japhet present? Data. And let's see. Awesome. So I think that says it all. That is why we use this scientific approach to make decisions. We use this DMAIC approach because we're using our data to make decisions and to make improvement. That's a key use of data. We're not just collecting it for fun. We're collecting it so we make wise decisions and make improvement. So Tanashi says target versus performance. Galaxy Tab A said performance data. Data, yes, for sure. Thank you, Japhet. Are there any questions for Japhet? Any? So I just want to shout out to Japhet for all the work that he and Patience and Fortune and the team have done to collect this data. It's a big job, and you can see some areas we're at like 72% and some areas we're like at 30%. So I will encourage you to reach out to Japhet, Patience, Fortunate, if you have questions about how to collect your baseline data. Anybody have a question for Japhet right now? All right. Thank you so much, Japhet. That's a lot of work to pull together over, what is it, 150 sites of data. All
Okay,
right.
maybe one more question,
Okay,
Barbara.
great.
Yeah. So since I missed the previous meeting, I understand now that we are testing changes. I think the next question is when do we start collecting implementation data so that we, as we are testing, we also collect the implementation data so that they are not left behind. Over.
So that is a very good question. Suggestions. You know, I think we want to continue to collect data, right? I mean, we collected for those 8-week period over the end of the year, but I think we're just wanting to continue ongoing data collection. But you're asking when we would draw the red line on our run chart. Am I understanding correctly?
Precisely, yes.
But also, just to be clear, we are to be collecting this data in an ongoing fashion, right? Month over, I mean, the baseline period ended in December, but we wanted to collect for January, February, and March too. Isn't that correct?
Okay, so I think for January, February, March, the reason why sites haven't been collecting data per se was to say there haven't been any improvements that they were working on. So it was more or less, you know, a mirror of the baseline data. But now that they have started, you know, working on some improvements, they want to have a comparison of the baseline performance, you know, compare it with the implementation where they've now tested changes, and they are anticipating that there's going to be some improvements so that they can see to it whether the interventions are leading to you know, some improvements in terms of their performance. Over.
Well, any thoughts on that? I mean, we may need to take that offline. I mean, definitely we want them to be collecting data from this day going forward. And it's, of course, always informative to be able to collect your data. But I would say definitely from today going forward, we definitely want to be collecting data on the changes that we're testing.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement. I think from when we started testing the changes, that's the that will be our starting point, so that we compare, you know, prior and the period that we are testing changes. But it's something that we can maybe further discuss offline.
Okay. All right, yes, so definitely want to be collecting data now to see if the things that you're testing are making any difference. Okay, are we ready for case studies?
And our
So we are going to be sharing. We are going to be sharing some of the deliverables that you all have presented. And the deliverables that we're continue to work on are the test of change, the 5S, and the just do it. So I think we're also, if we have a chance in some of these case studies, we're going to take a look at the fishbone and then how that helped you make the test. So I have a polling question for you. All right, so is everyone ready? I've launched a new poll, and this one says, which phrase best describes a small test of change? So I've got 70 people who can potentially vote, so go ahead and start your voting. I've got 2 folks who have fast fingers. Oh, rest of you join in. Oh, now the votes are coming in fast and furious. 27% of you have voted. And while you're voting, is the coach from Mutare Provincial Lab here and ready to go, because I have your case up first. All right, 47% of you have voted. We're still at 47%. All right. 49%. Let's get over 50% of you voting. 52%. All right, we'll go ahead and end the poll. So here are the results. Which phrase best describes a small test of change? 17% of you said a test that is conducted in more than one clinic. 28% of you said a fishbone, and 56% of you said the 1-1-1 rule. So I'm going to ask someone to be brave. Who can tell me what the 1-1-1 rule is? You can open your mic and tell me. Anybody brave out there who can tell me what the 1-1-1 rule is? You can go ahead and open your mic. Since 56% of you said that was the answer, what is the 1-1-1 rule? You can also type into the chat if you're not able to open. So while we're waiting, a test that is conducted in more than one clinic has moved up that cycle of testing, and so it's not a small test anymore. And we'll talk about how to roll up test of change, but when you you do a small test of change first, and then you may test it in another area. In your particular area, you'll test it with more people on more days. And then when you start moving it to another clinic, you're pretty convinced that it's working, it's going to work well. You want to know if it works in another clinic the same as it works in yours. So that's kind of past the small test of change. A fishbone, of course, is the tool that we use to analyze and understand our root cause. And the 1-1-1 rule. Has anyone typed in the chat box? Okay, and Elise has typed into the chat box. And it says, one tested change, one client at a time. So the rule of 1 is a very good description of a small test of change. If you're testing a new log, you'll make a paper copy of that log and you'll test it by one provider in one clinic on one day. It's such a small test of change that it really applies to the rule of 1. One person, one test, one day, one clinic, one location. So that's thank you, Leslie. One person, one program event, Galaxy Tab A. Yes, just the smallest test of change that you can do. And here's another question. Why would you do the small test of change first? I'm looking to my chat. Why do you do the small test of change first? So while we're waiting for that answer to come in, we are going to move to the Matari Provincial Lab. And is the coach available? Mr. or Ms.
Tawanda is online. Tawanda Machawira, we can respond. He's online.
Is online? Okay, awesome. Can we speak to you? Tawanda? You can go ahead and open your mic. We can test that and make sure we can hear you. I'm still,
Barbara, I don't see there's a microphone attached to her, so she may not be able to speak. I only see the webcam icon.
oh. Okay. Well, maybe she can type into the chat. Okay, we'll revisit the answer to that question when we finish this presentation. So this is Matari Provincial Hospital Lab. Appreciate them giving us a description and a picture of their facility. And they do about 500 lab tests a month. Okay. And then here's their team. And here is their project summary. And they tell us they're starting at 42% and they want to get to 95% of their samples that would reach that targeted turnaround time. And I understand that that's
can talk.
You can. Awesome. Welcome. Thank you so much for sending in your project and for joining us. So I see that you have proposed some changes that you're going to make. And this may change and move as you go along because you'll want to, in the final project summary, you'll want to put here the test of change that you really adopted that was working well. So that I'm sure you will update as you go along. So your problem statement, the viral load results don't meet this. I wanted to give you a shout out for your process mapping. It looks like you did a great process there. So I'm going to ask you about your voice of customer. What specific questions did you ask? What tool provided input to this voice of customer? And what was it really important that you learned from this voice of customer?
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Hi.
Questions were
Go ahead.
questions were more centered on right from the way the sample starts its journey towards the lab. That started from the clinics to the hub, from the hubs to the laboratory. So I wanted to follow up and understand what stages take place in the process of the sample being submitted to, actually in the sample finally reaching the testing lab. So, but we had to subcontract the process. We asked the hubs to do that on our behalf, but then we concentrated on our hubs on their process of sample delivery, how they do it towards to the lab of Ntare, and then also ask questions on what they do, how do they receive their results, and how they are supposed to be letting us know that they've received the results in the possible time they were supposed to indicate confirming receipt of results.
Okay, so you were asking them questions. You were concerned more with what's not working in the process or how the process is working. So what did you what was really important to know from this voice of customer? What do you really want to know so you can act on it?
Our intention was to exactly be able to track the sample from where it's collected up to the lab and be able to know any hiccups along the way. Say maybe the back had a problem, a breakdown, or the transporter has got challenges, or the hub maybe because of workshop someone was not there to receive them. And when they also get the sample to the lab from the reception, processing, testing, and actually eventually the publishing of results and the distribution of them, we wanted to see through the whole process.
So you really wanted to understand the challenges in the process. That's what you wanted to learn from the voice of customer. Would that be correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, okay. So what did you, so I think the importance of the voice of customer is coming out of it with something that would be, that you would be able to act upon, or that you would be able to say, feed into your fishbone and say, this is something that we really need to act on. So any summary or synthesis of what you learned from your voice of customer that you think you'd be able to act on?
What we learned from our process of voice of customer is that all the people were all aware of the process they were supposed to follow, and so that we're only going to strengthen that procedure and maybe highlighted them to the new turnaround time which we're going to be working on, and hearing on their part if they have challenges that might affect the process flow. And also at the testing lab to also act on some challenges which you noticed in terms of rights of using the limbs and stuff, and see how best we can tackle those issues and make sure, and also to be able to know if the results have been received by the respective centers, so somehow getting an acknowledgement from them to be able to mark that the result has just been there in time.
So it sounds like you actually learned quite a bit, and you have some things, and I think we'll look when we see your fishbone that you've been able to feed into the fishbone. So don't forget to capture all those things. This is your baseline data. So it's for the 12 weeks at the end of the year, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And so that looks good. So let's talk about your root cause analysis quickly. I see you've got your problem statement at the head of the fish. And I wanted to ask you first about the one that's highlighted in yellow, to increase personnel. Is that part of the root cause, not enough people?
Maybe I noticed I could have just removed that because the statement was supposed to like increase rights to testers. Hello?
Go ahead. I think that
Hello?
might have been someone who forgot to mute their mic. Go ahead.
Okay, so after having read that, the process flow from the apps was not needing much attention, but in the lab there are some situations when rights to laboratory information management system were limited, resulting in bottlenecks in terms of creating worksheets and publishing, verifying results. So in general, I wanted to try and explain that point in terms of increasing rights to access to some of the functions of the limbs.
Okay. So I just wanted to highlight that because oftentimes we decide that that is part of the problem, right? We just don't have enough people. If we had more people, but most of the time, if we think about making our processes stronger and taking out the waste, that whole concept of lean, that we're going to take out the waste, that we're going to streamline our process, that we may not have to increase personnel, and many times that's not an option. So I just wanted to highlight that for a moment. And then I highlighted a couple there in green, and I think those are true process issues. And in my experience, that tends to be the issues that are really the root cause many times, is that our processes aren't working well, or they're not efficient. So I think you've keyed in on some really important things. The viral load sample path flow from hubs to lab is not efficient. Creating the worksheet and process flow is not it's not good. And then your policy and procedure that you highlighted. So I think those are key findings. And then what you'll want to do is decide which one of these you're going to decide is the most important or the most impactful or the root cause, and how you're going to actually address it. So I appreciated that you added in the 5 whys, and you started here with limbs giving problems. And then I think you also highlighted that there may be lack of knowledge to troubleshoot limbs. And then you highlighted creating the worksheets was also to limited staff, and then incompetence in troubleshooting. So I think this is good. I might put these in a little bit different order, but I think that you really helped, this tool really helped you get down and understand that perhaps it's the knowledge and the competence of the staff that may be able to be worked on. In addition, you know,
Okay.
there might be frequent breakdowns, but I would put those a little bit lower. The lack of knowledge and competence maybe would be, you know, a more of a root cause that I would get down to. But I really think that that is a key insight. Anything else you'd like to add on that?
Yeah, I think it's very clear.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, I'm taking note of the recommendations.
Okay, excellent. And so I wanted to ask you about, and I think we see it later on your impact effort grid, but most of your solutions that you generated during your process mapping, well, actually all of them appear to be in the Just Do It's. So I wanted to ask you, have you been able to complete these Just Do It's, and were they actually Just Do It's?
We've managed to do part of it, like distributing the stickers for agent samples, inform our local OI, and even the other hubs are out of our town. We've revisited our email or contact details system, and we've always asked for a response of acknowledgement of receiving information, which is actually happening on emails. And also we're working on, since the transmitter sheets are coming from the national, so there were some centers which were not in the part of distribution. We've also forwarded the names of those centers to be included in the distribution of the transmitter sheets. So doing quite a number of some improvements of the Just Do It.
Okay, so there's a couple that I think are definitely not in the Just Do It category, and I'll point those out. The using sample transmittal process. Anytime you say process, I stop and say, If you've got a process, which you do, you're probably not going to be able to put it in a just do it. And everyone wants to think, oh yeah, let's just do it. But if you've got a process like this sample transmittal forms, there are steps in the process. And so you really need to understand that process, what steps aren't working. So I would say using sample transmittal process is probably not going to be a just do it. And the other one is set up an appointment system. Those are all great goals, but I'm not sure they fit well with the just do it. Just do it's they're usually can be done in a few days, maybe a week or two at most. They involve 1 or 2 people. The solution is well known and it's a simple process. It's a simple problem. Versus things that are going to require a bit more time, like the sample transmittal process or the appointment system, those probably actually need to be over the due third. And I don't want to discourage you from doing them. And I appreciate that you highlighted them, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to say, anytime that they require multiple people and it's a process and there's several steps and it's complex, you probably are going to need to do that over a bit more time. So that would be my feedback on that.
Thank you. Noted.
Okay, great. And then you, this is when you finished up your impact effort grid, you do have some things in due third. So appreciate that. Staff training, continuous training of staff. And I'll just highlight that usually doing the trainings is not a project, but it's part of changing the process. And so that's the one that requires a bit more detailed planning and thinking and time and using this more of a DMAIC approach, understanding the root cause. And then usually what goes with it is the staff trainings and the competency training. Those usually are added in as part of changing your process. So I'll throw that out to you.
Okay. Thank you for the enlightenment.
Oh, well, I think you all have found some very important things. Now, also in this Just Do It list, you are going to call facilities with rejected sample. Again, have you been able to do that in a few days to a couple of weeks? Have you been able to make that happen?
Sorry, can you rephrase the question? I was slight disturbance from the side.
No worries. The last one here on your Just Do It list about calling the facilities with rejected samples with high viral load and call with old urgent results. Is that something that actually turned out to be a Just Do It? And it's okay if it did or didn't. I think we are definitely in this game for learning. So what did you learn? What learning can you share with your team? Were you able to do this?
Okay, what we discovered through the voice of the customer, I realized that some from the data office, they would at times send, as they send the results, the critical results were not noted.
I wanted to stop a moment, Tawanda. Is there any, yeah, I think that's better now. We've got the mic muted. Okay, go ahead.
So why we decide to call it a Just Do It is like, these were supposed to have been happening. So we only went on to emphasize it emphasize the data office to take note of those results, put them aside and make sure we send them through the normal sending of emails, but they are called for and the centers are supposed to be alerted for such results. And for rejected samples, not to follow the routine of all that are sample viral load samples which have gone through the processing of everything. They are supposed to be entered. When they've just entered, comments placed, notify the facility as soon as they are ready. And for agent results, it was just a reminder to the members of staff to make sure they are called, and the data officer was tasked to take note of that, and there are assigned members to follow that.
Okay, so you had a process in place and it just wasn't working well. Is that correct?
Yeah, because of this COVID pandemic, some duties were slowly being neglected.
Yeah. Okay, well, that often happens when you take the time to do process mapping, you take time to look, you will find many, many more things that maybe also are opportunities for improvement. So a definite shout out. You really picked up on a lot of things. And if you can make them and just do it, that's great. If not, you might overwhelm the team if you are trying to do everything at once. So just think about that and think about how to implement these things. But I definitely want to shout out that you all found really a lot of great opportunities for improvement. Okay, tell me about your change that you tested. And what I don't see here is what did actually happen when you ran the test. So we'll have another couple of minutes and then we'll move on to the Shitchi clinic with Judith.
Unfortunately, where they ran out, stock out of our viral load region, so some of the process will not be tested directly to the viral load, but we tried that on COVID, which we ran in the seminar or almost the same scenario as the viral load samples, to like having the forms recorded first before the run is started, which showed us that you'll be able to produce the results in time, especially the line list will be read because the tester will go back to this to the limbs, all the details of the patients is there, and with the machines functioning well, it will also automatically transmit the results to the limbs. What is left is for the tester to verify the results, and it will reduce time to work on results like from manual entering, finding somebody to verify. So with COVID, it went out very well. When we decided to make sure forms are in the data office before they reach the testing lab, it was somehow working well, but then we need to sometimes also to check on that on viral load now, because we haven't yet started testing because of the stock out we're currently experiencing. I don't know whether it was ideal to substitute that.
So tell me again what you're trying to accomplish. It looks like you want rejected and urgent samples will be captured and reported quickly.
Yes.
With the exception of meeting the targeted turnaround time. I'm a little unclear on what you're testing and how you're going to measure it. Are you creating, do you have a new SOP set up? Do you have a new process? How will you measure that you've actually now implemented this new process or maybe re-implemented an old process? How are you going to know if your test of change is actually being done and working?
First and foremost is for every run that is going to be on our machine for VL, we are no longer going to use our lab numbers. We're actually going to use numbers generated from the limbs. So all our samples from the machine sub are supposed to be carrying a limbs number, not the lab number. So if you happen to see a sample that does not carry the limbs number with a lab number, then actually that's a red flag. We need to know what's happening and try to address that.
Okay. So I would think a little bit more on what you're actually going to measure and how small can you make the test? Can you go ahead and just do it, you know, kind of what can you do by next Tuesday? Today's Tuesday. So what can you do tomorrow? Is there a test that you could run and is there a way to measure it? Is there a way to say, I need to get this X many forms into the limbs and how many actually got into the limbs, and is my new process working? So the change you want to test, you want to be pretty clear on what it is, and you want to have a clear measure so you know if that change is working. And then think about how this is feeding into your bigger goal, which is to reduce turnaround time. So I would definitely try to make this a bit smaller. I would try to see what you could test, the rule of one. What can you do tomorrow, and start doing something tomorrow, and be pretty clear about what you're going to measure to know if your test was a success or not. So I will thank you very much for speaking with us. Really some great things in your presentation. And thank you so much. Does anyone have a question for Wanda?
Hi, Barbara.
Hi, Fortunate.
May we look at Shidamoyo next, because he has just lost power, so he's afraid the laptop might, the battery might deplete before he presents.
Okay,
Shidamoyo Blessing Masunongore.
so this is Blessing. Okay,
Yes.
let me pull
Thank
that
you.
presentation up. No worries. Right, and then we will share our screen. Okay. I'm going to scroll back here really quickly. These cases are very rich, and we're going to try to move a bit quicker through this one. 4 is a bit optimistic to get through. So Blessing, are you able to open your mic? Just wanted to shout out, you have a picture of your facility, and also wanted to shout out that you have a picture of your team. Isn't that a great looking team? So awesome job there. And it looks like your baseline data is 37%. You fill that in, so shout out there. And then your viral load sample collection, it looks like you have one line there for your baseline data. So that looks good. I am gonna have to, yeah. Okay. Now this next slide, I had a bit of a question about. It's baseline EAC sessions. So is that something you all added? And then I have a question about the 4 different lines. So Blessing, any comments on that? Why did you decide to look at EACs? Was there an issue, or? Because we were looking at getting viral load samples collected on eligible clients.
I see he's trying to connect to audio.
Trying to connect, okay.
Yes.
So I'm just encouraging us to kind of remain aligned, right? So here's our aim statement is increased proportion of eligible clients with a viral load sample received by lab. So that is, I don't know where my cursor keeps going. So that's what we're working on now. So I would just encourage Blessing to maybe we'll focus on our current aim statement now. EACs seems like are a problem ongoing. So I would definitely say you can work on that. And you probably just want one line for your baseline. All right.
Barbara, perhaps say more about what do you mean by one line and how do they get there? Because that seems to be a common misunderstanding. We've seen this kind of chart too often.
And I encourage you to really go to pen and paper and calculate a baseline. So it looks like to me that in October, you would, how many patients had high viral load and how many patients had EAC? It looks like 100%. So then you would divide the numerator by the denominator and you would say, okay, we have 100%, and you would put 1 dot at 100% on your chart. In November, 10 of 10 had EAC 1. So you'd put that at 100%. That would be 1 point. And running across the bottom of your line would, of course, be that time. So October would have 1 data point. November would have 1 data point. December would have 1 data point. And January would have 1 data point. So you would have 1 line with 1 data point for each month. And the months go vertically across the bottom of your chart. And then the horizontal part of your chart is what you're tracking. So this, in this case, might be percentage of patients with high viral load who had.
Sorry, Barbara, horizontal, that's x-axis, and that will be month, that will be time. X-axis will be time. Vertical, that's y-axis, that will be your percentage, that will be your metric.
I said it wrong. Yes, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so they also have added another problem. I mean, I shout out to you, Blessing, for going ahead and realizing that you have other problems, but I think probably we'll stick with one problem for now, focus on that one problem. And if you have enough bandwidth and you can do two projects at once, that's, you know, that's great. But I think in general, it's probably better to just stick with one big project at a time. All right, we're going to jump to your process map. And this process map, to me, it seems like you're following the patient all the way through 1 EAC, 2 EACs, 3 EACs. That seems like an algorithm that you're supposed to do in your country. What we really want to see is how are you getting the process done to identify the patients who need to have their viral load and getting the sample drawn and getting the result back. This is more like a country algorithm. You're supposed to do X, Y, and Z, but let's focus on what's actually occurring and have more detail in the process. All right. Voice of customer. Blessing, are you there yet? Can you speak with us?
Yeah, you were saying he is just moving to another place because the connectivity is giving him problems where he was because of the electricity, which is not there. But I'm sure you'll be able to connect shortly, so he says.
Okay. So so I'm asking about your voice of customer, and what I want you to kind of step back and have a big picture when you collect that voice of customer. A lot of people are collecting data in the voice of customer, but I want you to collect the most important data in the voice of customer. And the most important data is related to your problem statement. Your problem statement says you are not having enough eligible clients to actually have their samples drawn. So then you want to know why. Blessing, are you there? So I think many times in our voice of customer, we ask kind of questions like, are you happy? Do you know? But what we really want to know is, why are you not coming in to get your viral load done? So I think focusing on those few questions that really dig down and help us solve our problem would be most beneficial. So I think it's important to ask about satisfaction, but ask it in light of why is the person not having their viral load sample drawn. Bless. Fortunate when Blessing is here to have them chime in. So that they talk about clients appreciate the services, and that's great. But now this is, I think, important voice of customer survey findings here. So a shout out to the team for doing this, because this is, they've learned something that I think really help improve their services. And then a big shout out for this, they've actually made an action plan. So they took what they learned and from this survey, the voice of customer, and they made an action plan. And so a big shout out for that. Blessing, can you tell us about your action plan, what you're planning on doing? So they actually learned from voice of customer. They're considering starting another outreach point based on what they learned. And so I really want to shout out for that. All right. And then we're going to move straight to our change idea that you're testing. I was hoping you could provide some clarity on this one. Okay, well, I am, as you are, reading this, looking at it and understanding what they're actually doing. So this seems a bit broad for me, this test change, increased coverage of the proportion of viral load samples. That's like what we're trying to do overall, but what are you testing to make that happen? What change are you testing that will improve that? Because now you say you're at 37% and you want to go to 90%. So that's a great aim. That's where we want to go. And it looks like
managed to join in.
Excellent. Blessing, talk to us about what test of change you're testing. Can you describe it for us? So from what I can read here, they're going to flag and schedule the clients. They're drawing viral load samples as per schedule and labeling and packaging viral load samples. So I would encourage you to make it a small test of change and test one thing at a time that you're going to do. And then just make it a small enough test of change that you could actually report to us what actually happened when you ran the test. Pick one of those. Blessing, are you there? So most all of you, I will comment that no one actually put in there what actually happened when you ran the test. So I'm understanding that it might be just an idea that you're going to run the test and you're going to complete it by the end of May, but a small test of change you would pick one of these and you would just start doing it tomorrow. And you would try to measure the effects of it. Now, if it's a small enough test of change, you may not be able to measure it in your big big outcome goal of increasing proportion of viral load samples. The smallest test of change, you just might ask your staff, how did this work? Did you, is it working better? How are the patients responding when you called them? So we need a smaller test of change. And I know Patients Unfortunate wanted me to speak a bit about, and I think we're running out of time here, but a bit about the change package. But I would pick one of these and I would put some more detail around it. Because this is basically saying, you know, we're supposed to be flagging and scheduling clients. We're supposed to be drawing samples as per schedule, but let's try something new, different, a small test, and let's just start tomorrow. No reason that we couldn't start trying something new tomorrow and capture the learning from it. All right.
Sorry, Barbara. I think Blessing is having problems
Well,
connecting. Yeah.
I'm disappointed that we didn't hear from Blessing. I will just say for the, and we're rapidly running out of time here, but for the cheat sheet clinic, and I am sharing the wrong presentation there. I did want to say, my suggestion for this clinic was that you all have worked on getting your results in your green book, and that's a great thing to work on. But I think we'll focus this time on working on meeting the actual aim to increase the proportion of eligible clients with a viral load sample sent to the lab. So your test of change had to do with getting results in the green book. And again, great thing to work on, and you can certainly work on that. Maybe it's a just do it because you kind of just pulled people together and put the results in. So maybe that one could be a just do it, but this one that we're really working on is getting the eligible clients. So that would be my suggestion for that particular clinic. All right, let's go back.
I think we have Judith Dube from Chichi online. If you have any questions for her.
Okay,
She's
Judith.
online.
Hi, Judith, can you say
Waiting.
hello?
Yes, she's there.
Hello, Barbara. How are you?
Hi, Judith. Thanks so much for sharing your case with us. I would just highlight to you, and maybe Japhet can help me comment on this a little bit. I was not exactly sure about your baseline data.
Barbara, could you? Yes, thank you.
I was not exactly sure about your baseline data because it seemed to go back over several years. So perhaps you can work with Japhet and clarify a little bit what the baseline period was that we were actually collecting. And then also this run chart for the baseline samples was a number of samples per week. And what we're really looking for is a ratio or a percentage of the samples that collected of the patients who were eligible. So I would just suggest a refinement of that run chart would be based on the actual percentage here. The proportion, which means a percentage, and you calculate that by the number of viral load samples out of the denominator, the patients eligible for having a viral load test, instead of just the actual straight numbers that you have collected. Appreciate 5S's. I'll just make a quick shout out for that. And also would encourage you all to go ahead and do the audit sheets as well. You need to do the audit sheet before and the audit sheet after. So we have a numerical score as well as a before and after photo. And this was the comment that I was just going to make on here, is that you're backlogging undocumented results and you're putting them in the green book, which again is an excellent thing to do, but we need to align what we're working on with the PDSA with our aim. And so your test of change talks about filing system, green books. So I think the one that would apply is the list of clients with outstanding services. Perhaps you could refine that a little bit. Tell us what you're actually testing. Show us a picture. And really work on the focus of this project is about getting the patients in to have their viral lead samples drawn. So those would be my comments. And then of course, no one put what happened when you ran the change. So again, I think these are ideas of things you want to test. So my big message to everyone would be run a test tomorrow, maybe this afternoon, and then tell us what happened and make it a small enough test that we could actually go ahead and run it, and one test at a time. These are like 3 different things here. All right, so let's look ahead real quick. So Judith, any questions or comments from you? Thanks for sending in your presentation. I want to shout out to Sanyati Clinic, Blessings at Chidamo, and the Mutari and Chichi Clinic for actually getting there in and working on testing the changes, because that's where we want to focus. So as we look ahead, we're in the improve phase. What changes will we make to address the problems? And so here are our deliverables. We're still working on the 5S. We'd like everyone to do the pictures and the audit, 5S audit. It's in your LARC workbook. And that reminds me, I do have another poll for you. One more poll question. And this is anonymous, so you can answer however is the truth for you. Question is, have you referred to the LARC workbook in the last 2 weeks?
Hi, Barbara. That's an interesting question.
That's why I ask it, Jonathan. All right, so in the interest of time, we will go ahead and in the poll, we've got 31% of people have voted. And here are the results. 14 of you said yes, you referred to the LARC workbook. 7 of you, 32% said no, and 1 person wants to know what the workbook is. So I would very much encourage you to go on over to larcui.org, take a look at the LARC workbook. And Marvelous, can you go ahead? Yeah, thank you. Because there's some key tools in there that you'd want to be able to use. One of them is the 5S audit. So it helps you measure where you are before and where you are after. And you know, we always want to measure improvement, right? So Definitely use the LARC workbook. It's got a lot of valuable information there. It talks about how to and many other things. So I want to encourage you to go ahead and do some more PDSAs this week. Definitely watch some of the videos. There are a couple of examples that are out that I think would be helpful. State your objective. What solution are you going to test? And then an action plan. And that's already built into that form. And many of you all did the action plan, but make the action plan short term. We want a PDSA completed by next Wednesday. So, and you have to start today planning and tomorrow executing a test that you're going to change, a change that you're going to test. Run the test on a small scale. Observe what happens when you run the test. Document what happens. Do you use those improvement glasses and understand how the test went? Chart the data. What data did you collect? You have to set up the PDSA so you are collecting data going forward. You're going to analyze it, and then you're going to decide 3 things. Did you like it? Did it work well? Adopt. Done. Standardize it. Make an SOP. Do some training. Do some competency. Make sure everyone understands it. That's not usually going to work in the first cycle. It's going to take 2 or 3 cycles. And then if you like some of it, but you want to adapt it, change it a little bit, tweak it, and run the cycle again, that's why we do small tests of change. I don't think anyone ever typed into the chat box, but we do small tests because we don't want to waste resources on something that doesn't work. And then if it just didn't work at all, abandon it and be done with it. So a test of change alters a step in a process and evaluates the impact of that alteration, which highlights you have to understand the steps in your process to know which one you're altering. And let's think about what we want to ultimately have at the end of this project, which is coming up in a month. We want to have the old process map compared with the new process map. What steps did you change to actually result in your new improvement that you've been able to demonstrate? How do you decide which changes to test? You definitely look at those opportunities for improvement from your process map. You listen to your customer. One of the teams today learned that perhaps their customers do not have good access. So they're thinking of setting up another clinic. They're thinking big and bold. And then look at that root cause analysis, that fishbone. Make sure that there are causes in there that you can really affect. And oftentimes people say, well, the problem is we don't have enough people. Let's give up. We're done. Let's go home. And most often the problem is the process. The process is not streamlined. You haven't taken out the waste. You have not made your process more efficient. So on this worksheet for testing change, we like to see a small test here. And if you watch the LARC videos, we've got a couple of examples of what would be a small test of change. You're going to set up some tests, some things you need to do to prepare to run your tests. So put those in your action plan and then predict what's going to happen, make it measurable, and then actually do it and fill in this what you did, what happened when you ran the test. So that's what I want you to focus on this week, making some test of change. You've got to get out there. You've got to start making a plan, picking a test of change. And I think we shared with you the list of changes that people used last time. We can resend that if you need to see it. Your 5S, go ahead and update that audit, which is found in your workbook. And your just do it's. There is no problem if you put something in a just do it. And that's why I asked Tawanda, I said, were you able to just do it? Because that's how we learn. If you put something in the just do it category and you start doing it and it's not done in a week or two, It didn't involve just one or two people. There wasn't a simple, easy solution. Because oftentimes, if there was a simple, easy solution, we would have done it and we would already be done. So put it in the just do it category. Try it. And if it doesn't work, then you've learned something. You've learned that this is not a just do it. Perhaps you're going to have to set up a test of change to work through it. So no problem with coming up with ideas and thinking maybe they're a just do it, and then realizing, no, this is a bit more complex. It requires more people. It deals with a process. It's going to take a little while longer. And then step back and just work through that process. Use your test of change worksheet and work through that process. So a shout out to all the teams who sent in their presentations today. I want to thank you very much. And this is an opportunity. We have 5 minutes. If you have any questions, if you're shy, you can type into the chat box. And I have not looked at the chat box in the last moment or two here, but is there anything updated in the chat box? Some folks have lost audio.
Just a reminder, please take the survey, and Fortunate is going to copy and paste the survey into the chat. I'm sure he will also send, she'll also send it out to through the WhatsApp group. Over.
Yeah, I'm sorry that we had challenges today that we couldn't hear from most of our coaches, because we really love this to be a bit more of an interview. We'd like to really understand what you're thinking, because that's how we learn from each other, is understanding your thinking. And perhaps, you know, then we can be a bit clearer on what we need to do going forward next week by learning from what others have learned and done. So Patience has put the Survey Monkey. You are really lost with PDSA. I really encourage you to watch the LARC videos and look in your workbook. The workbook also has some step-by-step guidance of how to set up a test of change, and then the LARC videos. And there's one with a couple of examples. Again, my sincere apologies for being late with getting those out, but I would encourage you to take the opportunity now to go ahead and take a look at those. Patience says, let's quickly complete the survey. Link also shared on the WhatsApp platform. All right, we've still got about 4 minutes, so I am certainly willing to take any questions. I think PDSAs, you think they're just going to be pretty easy and pretty simple, and they're a bit more complex and a bit harder to execute. But I just say go and do it, go and try it, and learn what didn't work. Sometimes that may be the best way to try a PDSA. Realize that maybe there are too many things to test in one small test of change. PDSAs generate learning. They're not about perfection. Tawanda, thank you for being willing to share. Appreciate it. And I will send back your presentations with some comments. Any other questions?
There's a hand.
Sifo, please open your mic and go right ahead.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, thank you very much for this wonderful platform. Yeah, we are actually beginning to see the importance of this project. But we do have some challenges of missing some of these important LARC meetings because of the other competing programs. But we really appreciate every time I attend, I learn one or two things new, which is interesting. Because we are at various places where we are working, doing other projects. I don't know if it's possible from this platform that probably those best presentations that will be presented in this platform, if they can be shared, so that of how some of the presentation of the data is being done. At times you become very blank and you see this slide and the information required and you don't even know how to really put it because you do not have experience of it. But if you would have seen how others are putting it through, you will take it to your context of your facility, and then you are able to at least be guided, sort of. I don't know if I'm making sense, and I don't know if this can be possible. But otherwise, thank you very much for the wonderful teachings. And this seems to be a very nice project if you really have time to really follow it through. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Sifo. Are you asking for the presentations to be shared with the comments? And then I would defer to Fortunate and
Yes. If the presentations that will be
with the comments. I will defer to Patience and Fortunate if that is acceptable, and to the teams with their presentations. But I'm happy to do that if that works.
we
So Barbara, you can go ahead and add your comments and share them back to patients, and they can make a decision whether they share that with everyone or not. Now, if they decided that there's privacy issue, they don't want to share that with everyone, we do have a canned sample presentation that really shows the case study that really shows how all the details, right? We also have that option. Over.
Okay, I will defer to them and we'll take that offline. I see Taku joined us today. He says he has to head off. Thank you, Taku, for joining us. Japhet, did you have your hand raised?
Okay, yes. So I just wanted to mention that if there are coaches that are still having problems with their data run charts available, please reach out to me so that we can work together so that we can present data in a meaningful and easy to understand manner.